What's up everybody, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be going over my attempt at a homemade ballistic helmet, the processes I used throughout the project, and the results I achieved. So I'm just going to quickly go over the things I think are important, the things I've learned, and kind of just show little clips that explain that. So starting off with number one, I don't have a clip for this, pretty straightforward, just preparation. Make sure you're prepared for the project. Make sure you have all your fabrics cut. Make sure you have your resin, your cleaning supplies, good scissors, everything you would need. Just make sure you have it prepared and ready to go. All right, number two is make sure you have the right stuff. Throughout this project, I found myself running into a bit of issues around having the right items. Like at first, I thought maybe I could use a perforated release film, but it didn't really conform, so that didn't work. I had to get a peel ply. Second, I was having trouble figuring out like how to get the resin to wet out in the fabric, so I bought these silicone resin spreaders. Didn't really work. So just make sure you have the right stuff. Perforated release film, it doesn't work. It just doesn't conform, so you need to use a peel ply. I suggest also getting a resin roller. I found out with the peel ply is that air seems to get trapped underneath it really easily, and even though it does wet out like a composite fabric, it doesn't like to stick to the composite fabric, so you will have air pockets, and I think a resin roller will definitely help with that, which is something I didn't have throughout this project. I forgot to mention that these aren't really in any particular order. I just numbered them out when I was writing down, important stuff. All right, so the next is pot life, resin pot life. Make sure you know the resin pot life, because that is a really big factor in determining how many layers you can do at a time. So my resin pot life was 30 minutes, and I had no clue how long it was going to take me per layer. So when I first went into this, I was thinking, it was just going to be one and done. I was going to do all the layers at once, and I would just be done. Yeah, that did not happen. That did not happen. When I first started, it took me literally about 10 minutes per layer. I got 4 layers in, and then the resin started to harden. So make sure you know your resin pot life, because that's going to determine how much layers you can do at a time, and also how much resin you need, because depending on how many layers you're doing, that will decide how much resin you need. So I did groups of 4 for my 23 layers, about 6 groups. I only did 5 groups because as I progressed throughout the project, I actually got a lot faster, and I got down to 5 minutes a layer instead of 10 minutes a layer, and that allowed me to get 6 layers done in the last group. So if you're experienced with composites, maybe you can do it faster. Maybe just know your resin's pot life. I used 200 milliliters of resin for each group of 4 I did, and I always had more. So 200 is a good baseline. There's obviously calculations, but I didn't do any of that. So depending on your, materials and the ounce of the materials, you could need more resin, you might not. I used a 9 ounce, 18 ounce, 6 ounce, and then I don't know what the tri-weave was. It's probably similar to a 9 ounce. So yeah, just keep that in mind. 200 milliliters of resin for each group of 4, and I had a little bit extra. You always want a little bit extra. That includes enough resin for the bleeder cloth. Not bleeder cloth, the peel ply. Also, okay, I forgot. I should have probably said this earlier, but like I said, it's in no particular order. I recommend, 1, putting the shell in a plastic bag, because when you start When I initially started, I covered the shell in PVA glue, 3 coats of Elmer's glue. You know, pretty straightforward. It worked out when I tested it, so that was going to be my release agent because I didn't have anything else. Once you're done with that and you peel off the first 4 layers, the Elmer's glue is on the inside of the composite portion, so it takes it off of the shell and it sticks to the composite portion. So I found out that after that, instead of reapplying the Elmer's glue, because the resin will get in between the now completed composite portion and the shell, it sort of goes in between both of them, and it might not stick to the shell, but it's gonna stick to the inside of the composite portion. So I found it best to reapply a coat of Elmer's glue to the composite portion and then cut up HDPE bags. I'm obviously going to show a clip here. And as well as putting the shell portion in a trash bag. That will keep them from sticking to each other if any resin does seep in between both pieces once you go to do your next 4 layers. Number 5, the best method I've found to wet out the fabric in a timely manner is to just use your hands. Like I stated earlier, I got these resin spreaders because I initially started with a brush, a bristle brush. That's a one-time use because I didn't clean it, so I figured I'd get some silicone resin spreaders, multi-use, right? Too slow. So the best method is to just use your hands. Pour some resin on there, some resin. When you're first starting, you need to pour resin on the shell portion. And then you put your layer down. Pour more resin, wet everything out, repeat. If you use 2 layers of bleeder cloth, it's gonna take out too much resin and the top layer is gonna be patchy, which actually I did on the first 4 layers. I used 2 layers of bleeder cloth and it took out too much resin, and these first 4 layers, the top layer was patchy. I'll show a picture right here. Also, cut your peel ply bigger than your composite layers. A few of the times I thought I was cutting them around the same size, but they were actually a little bit smaller. And when you fold it over, you might not have enough, and then at that point when you put the bleeder cloth on, the bleeder cloth is gonna be in your final composite, and you don't want that. So make sure you have enough peel ply to where it overlaps and goes inside the shell portion, or just over the edges at least. So cut your peel ply a little bit bigger. All right, removing the peel ply. I thought this was gonna be super easy. It's actually pretty difficult. It's not really difficult, but it just takes a lot of effort. So if you cut the peel ply bigger, obviously it's gonna fold over a little bit. You won't have any bleeder cloth, which is definitely better, but the folding over does make it harder to take it off. So I just used some vice grips, found a spot that folded over onto the shell, and since the shell is smooth, or if you have a bag that resin will detach from, in my case a HDPE trash bag or something, just find a piece of the overlapped or the folded over peel ply that's easy to pull off, and that will be your leverage. From there, use vice grips and clamp onto it, and then sort of do like a twisting or spiral motion. Again, I'll show a clip. I found that to be the best way. You just want to pull up the edges around the entire helmet, and then you're gonna actually score the peel ply and bleeder cloth with a razor down the middle. Makes it a lot easier pulling it off in 2 pieces than in 1 piece. Yeah, just go to one of the edges that you've already peeled up, stick it in the vise, and it should just rip into 2 pieces and come off relatively easy. Again, I'll show a clip. Once you've done that, then you have to get the base, the shell that you actually started forming the layers up on, out of the helmet. And I found the best way to do that is to just go around the edges with a rubber mallet, smack it a little bit. It shouldn't delaminate. I didn't have any problems with delamination or anything, unless you're freaking like hitting it really hard. Shouldn't have any problems with that. Simply go around the edges with a rubber mallet. Should release the edges, and then use a screwdriver, flathead screwdriver or something, to get between the composite portion and then the shell. Pry up the shell a little bit and then use vice grips again. Clamp whatever portion you pulled up, and then simply hold the vice grips and then hit the composite portion with a rubber mallet, and the two pieces eventually should separate. Now we'll just go to a time lapse of the actual layup process. So yeah, this is the helmet. It's got the foam. The foam actually fits relatively well. Not really. It's just the Velcros holding it on that it came with. I did put these outside Velcro back on, even though I'm not going to be using the helmet cover that it came with. It does fit for the most part. It's kind of short on the edges, but the front and back length it's good. But I misaligned this night vision mount, so it looks kind of retarded with the cover on because it doesn't line up. That's totally my fault. This goes this way. It should go this way a little bit. But yeah, put the rails back on. The hardware didn't really fit. Just because this is thicker than the shell I based it on. So I put new screws in here. The originals did fit, but they barely screw on. I expect it will probably just fall off as soon as it gets hit. But yeah, so I did put it on. It does seem like it holds pretty well, but I don't think it'll stand up to a gunshot. The inside and the outside have been coated in a truck bed liner. Just a relatively thin coat, just because I didn't have enough time to wait for it to dry 24 hours, then do it again, and then wait for it to dry again a bunch of times to build up like a decent coat. So it is a relatively thin coat. The thickness varies just because some parts got folded over, but the front is a good area to judge. I focused on this quite a bit. However, there was one group that did get misaligned, so it's a little bit smaller than what it actually is. So the very tip, it's 0.18. Go down a little bit. It's 0.23. 0.24, which is what it actually is. If you don't know or didn't see, I did make this test sample. I mean, I split it in half for testing purposes. But yeah, it was 23 for this test piece. It's basically the same exact thing I did here. I put it in the vacuum bag. I used bleeder cloth, 2 layers actually. So it got out a lot of the resin. So yeah, 23 should be pretty accurate. Except for some pieces did get folded over, and you know, what can you do about that? I guess just be more careful if you're gonna do this yourself. I don't know. Try to make sure that the shell like goes to the edge, I guess, and then you won't get so much like folding over. This thing got demolished, by the way. The last few times taking it out, it didn't really want to come out. But yeah, so the thickness is, let's just say 1/4 inch, basically 1/4 inch. And yeah, there's a few like creasing spots, especially at the back. You can see here probably it's a crease, a few creases along here. But other than that, that overall shape looks pretty good, in my opinion. For a first time doing this, maybe if I did it again, it would look better with practice, obviously. But if you're gonna do this yourself, first time person doing this, it's gonna look relatively good, even if it is just your first time doing it. And yeah, it's about like a month of working on this. It's finally ready. I think it looks pretty good. I don't know about if it looks cool, but I think it looks good. As in, it looks like it would be functional. I'm like 100% sure it will stop 9mm and 45. Just because actual aramid helmets are 19 layers, I believe. That might be more on the low end, but that's what Google said, so take Google's word for it. And this is 23 layers, not of aramid, but of materials you could use in a ballistic composite. I'll show you how the materials here, but it's kind of mumbo jumbo now that I've crossed everything out. But I should have a good clear, I'll put up an image, should be in my notes still. I'm not sure about the Liberty Civil Defense, going pretty fast. And yeah, 3-pound helmet. Feels kind of heavy, but once you put it on your head, it's actually not that heavy. I'm sure very taxing if you're wearing it for a while, but right now it doesn't even seem that bad. With that, we'll get to the test footage and see how this actually performs. I think it went through. This was dead. Dead. Here's the entry. Liberty Civil Defense. And that was the speed. Did you even hit it? Oh, right there. It's a hit. That didn't go through. Alright, well, Soft's regular 9mm. There's 45. Here's the dent. Alright, so here's the helmet. Unfortunately, there's not really much to show. We have a 115 grain Full Metal Jacket 9mm right here. This is the entry. Hopefully you can see that. This is the back side of the 9mm hit. As you can see right here, basically no deformation. There's like the tiniest little dent. Here we have, I don't know the grain on this. I think it's like 230 or something. This is 45 ACP. You can clearly see the bullet right there. The back face is quite a bit more. Not sure how easy that'll be to see. But it's about 1.5 inches diameter. Comes out about like, I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch. Maybe a little bit less than that. And yeah, everything else that went through is Liberty Civil Defense. This is the 44 Magnum. And yeah, that's really all there is to it. Either way, clearly there is no round in this area. Okay, you can see this is the 9mm round. So it hit right here, if you remember what it looked like earlier, and then it must have went up through here and then got stuck right here, because I saw that this area was raised, but after I'd already done all this, didn't come to me sooner that this was probably in fact the round. But now that we've got that out the way, it's basically where it was at. It's this piece right here. So it went boom, hit here, and went up in between the carbon and a tri-weave layer, 3 layers in. Piece broke off here, and the rest is stopped right over here. Let's see if I can get that out close before I take it all apart. Nine mil made it in about 3 layers, and then redirected. Yeah, that's about all there is to it. Everything else went through, so, which is rather unfortunate. I thought for sure this would have a chance to stop the Liberty Civil Defense, but I guess not. A quick recap, and then we'll be done. We had a 9mm entry here. It did not go through. This is just me investigating. It went 3 layers in and then was redirected. It took this path and then got lodged right about here. Might not be able to see it, but there is a bit of a dent here. We did collect that 9mm round, 115 grain full metal jacket. The box says, I think 1150. The chrono said, I think like 1800, but I don't think that's right. So we'll just go with, like, I don't know, maybe what the box says. This is everything we collected from the 9mm. You can see that. The other side. This is the 45 that we collected. And that was right here. We dug it out of this hole. Just stuck basically right on the surface so you could see the back of the round still. Went about 3 layers in also, 2 to 3 layers. And this is a Liberty Civil Defense that went through and was stuck in the clay, which I did not show because I did that at the range. There's a bit of foam in here. This would have been a probably lethal. It went through the helmet. It might not have gone through your skull, but it might have. And if it did, it probably would have barely went through. So you might have like some brain damage, but potentially survivable. But yeah, all the other ones went straight through. This is the foam, got absolutely annihilated, as you can see. I think there is a round in here. There is, huh. This is why recapping is very important, guys. Bruh, look at this. It's only a round right here. Boom. I assume this is Liberty Civil Defense, although I'm not sure. Pretty sure there's no lead in that round. I'm not sure what this is. Huh. I don't know. This is a jacket. This could be the round. This could be the jacket. I'm not entirely sure if this is Liberty Civil Defense or not. It looks like lead, although this is a lead-free round. I'm pretty sure. Doesn't look very hollow, pointy. So potentially another 9mm, which is odd because the other 9mm was stopped. And I don't think 9mm went through this. Do these look like the same material? Honestly, I don't know. This seems to be a lot shinier once you scratch it. So maybe it is Liberty Civil Defense. Either way, we just found this. Get a better close up for you guys. Looks like lead, but the areas that I scratched, I don't know if you can see the areas that I've scratched. Scratched a bit back here. Does seem to be a bit shinier. Either way, we found that right here stuck in the foam, so technically went through the helmet, but it did get stopped by the foam, so maybe not lethal. There's another round right here, I believe. Okay. Stuff fell. This is what fell. Definitely Liberty Civil Defense. Can 100% tell by how shiny it is. This has got to be 9mm or something. The other piece, because this is something like very shiny. Seems pretty obvious what round it is. We're losing stuff. Okay, I think that's about it, basically, for what was right here, this area. But this is what we found. In the second hole, we just checked on the foam. I mean, this is like pretty obvious. I mean, this is just the outside of the round. I think the whole round is like this, though. So I'm not sure what this is. Pretty sure this is another 9mm. I'm not sure where this hit. Could have hit a compromised area, which is why I went through, which is making me question if it really is able to stop 9mm. So yeah, I'm gonna keep this. Maybe the next time I go test something, we'll retest this. There's still a few good spots on here, especially this side right here. And this is all basically good. The back is relatively good. This whole area is like good to go. So we'll confirm that the next time we go out, probably. I don't know. But these Liberty Civil Defenses in the foam makes me think, and then this one in the clay makes me think that, I mean, we were pretty close to stopping it. Which means I don't think 9mm, regular 9mm full metal jacket would have went through. Which is kind of confirmed by the other one that barely went 3 layers in and redirected. But since it did get redirected, maybe it just got redirected. Maybe if it didn't get redirected, it would have went through. I don't really know. This honestly makes this kind of leads to more questions than answers that we really wanted. But it definitely stops 45. We know that. I mean, it was a pretty dead-on hit to the side. There was no like angles or anything to it. This is what we've collected. This was in the clay. This was in the foam. A few of these smaller pieces were in the clay, or I mean in the foam. And then these bigger pieces were actually the 9mm that got stopped in the helmet. Can't forget the 45 as well. That's what we've got. Yeah. So, what can we learn from this? I think what we can learn from this is that I honestly don't know what we can learn from this. I think potentially replacing the carbon with Kevlar might have helped. We need something that's like, you know, something that's soft or something that will, because you know when you shoot Kevlar, like soft Kevlar, it like pulls the fibers out instead of breaking. You know, because like when you glue all of this in resin, it's all hard. I mean, it's a composite, yeah. And I think having some type of material that is softer, maybe, once it does get like hit and the resin can break away from it, it can, you know, get stuck to the bullet and pull out with the bullet to slow it down instead of just snapping. I think that would definitely help this build. So I don't know if I need to do Kevlar or UHMWPE, but I think definitely having some type of soft fiber that won't just snap like the carbon and like the basalt would have helped this build. I think that's what I can take away from this at least. Everything else really was really well, especially for my first time doing something like this. A big composite and in a relatively difficult shape. I mean, it's basically a circle if you think about it. So there was a bit of folding over on the edges, just, I don't know, make sure you're cutting all the way to the edge of the shell you're basing it on. If you don't cut all the way to the edge, then when you vacuum it, you're gonna get a bit of folding. So, and yeah, maybe I'll do a video. It seems like some of you want me to do a video that would be about finding, you know, like a go-to composite, finding out the best materials, what materials go together, which ones work better than other ones. Here we basically, this majority of this design is a basalt carbon composite with a tri-weave reinforcing layer. So maybe we'll test this with basalt carbon versus a basalt Kevlar. Maybe a fiberglass versus basalt. See which one's better than the other one, which combinations are better, and then put those together to find the ultimate composite. And then maybe we'll revisit this helmet project, or we can utilize that as a backer in a rifle project. So let me know if you guys want to see something like that, like an in-depth look at how composite materials work together and which ones are stronger than others. I can probably also look at, you know, like layer orientation versus like offset. I kind of did that in like a YouTube short, like a little test sample, and I found that offsetting it actually was better than layer orientation, and that's even a lot easier. So you won't have to go through the trouble of cutting diagonal layers if you can make sure you offset them. And I can also look at, you know, like instead of offsetting, you could just have each of your weaves different. Instead of all plain weave, you can have a twill weave, and then that way you won't even have to do a 45-degree angle because the, you know, the layers won't match up, the weave won't match up. So yeah, some type of in-depth, really in-depth composite video. Let me know if you guys want to see that. If not, I'll try to find another project. I did find some ceramic strike faces just by themselves on eBay, silicon carbide ones, and they're like really cheap. They're literally $50, and they're from a reputable armor company in Germany, Saint Gobain. So yeah, that would be pretty cool. Let me know if you want to see that. But those are just a few ideas. You can also let me know any other ideas you guys might have. Let me know what you guys want to see, whether you think this idea worked out or whether you think it was, I don't know,
pretty poor. I honestly think it could have went better. I was hoping it would have went better, but I think for a first time doing this, it did pretty good. And it definitely looked cool, in my opinion, with the rails and everything. Yeah, I think that's it. There's a few good spots. I'll try and test this again the next time I go out. Whenever I do another test, I'll bring this with me. Just kind of reconfirm a few things. If it can stop 9mm or not. Kind of, I mean, in the dark on that. It did stop one, but it didn't stop another. Did it hit a weak area? Not really sure. So we'll reconfirm that the next time I go out. But definitely stops 45 with basically no deformation. I mean, this is like weak sauce. Especially with the foam. Like, where is this? Right here? I don't even see anything on the foam. There's nothing on here. No sign that you even got hit. So, I mean, like, you would have barely felt that. And then the 9mm, there was like literally nothing there either, but it kind of like skipped, so you didn't really get to see the full deformation. But it probably would have been less than the 45. And considering how small the 45 is, basically no deformation there either. Which is technically a good thing, but is also kind of a bad thing in regards to the Liberty Civil Defense. I think that's why the Liberty Civil Defense had such an easy time going through this. So, on that note, I'm gonna end the video. Let me know your thoughts, project ideas, what you think about the in-depth composite video and the silicon carbide strike face on eBay. Let me know what you think about that as a project idea and any other project ideas you guys might have. Yeah, peace out.